Hello, uh, this is Dr. Satish Singhal, PhD from Rose State College in Oklahoma City, Midwest City, Oklahoma. I did a C++ 11 tutorial number 1, which is available on YouTube. This is the number 2. It took a while to get to number 2 because my job keeps me pretty busy. This will be useful for anybody who wants to learn about uh, C++ tuples. Okay, so somehow, let's see. Okay, so first let's define what the tuples are. What are tuples? Wikipedia's definition of tuple, I modified it because I didn't really like it very much. So I'm gonna share that with you. In mathematics, computer science, linguistics, and philosophy, a tuple is a sequenced list of elements. Sequence means first one is sequence 0, second one is 1, third one is 2, and so on. So the number is 1, sequence is 1 less than the number, basically. In set theory, a tuple is a sequence of n elements where n is a non-negative integer, which means it could be 0 or higher, but not negative. And the sequencing begins with the first element being 0, next being 1, and so on. So the nth element would have a sequence number n minus 1. By the way, this sequencing is used just about everywhere in programming. The strings have the same sequencing. First character is sequence 0, second is 1, and so on. And arrays have the same thing. Index of first element is 0, second is 1, and so on. Okay, so this sequencing is universal in collections that have members numbered. Enumeration is the same thing. First element is 0 and so on. Okay, repeating the same thing again. Notice that this sequencing mechanism where first element is 0 and nth element has sequence number n minus 1 is also followed in other collections such as in string, arrays, and enumeration. But there is a major difference compared to arrays, strings, and enumerations, that the member of tuple can be heterogeneous in data types. So what does that mean? That means that a tuple can contain an integer, double, string, or any other data type, even user-defined data type. So in that sense, it's very much like a structural record. It can have dissimilar data types. All right. Understand this property of heterogeneous data type is not allowed for strings, arrays, and enumerations. In last three, the data members must be of same type. Enumerations, of course, behind the scene, they are considered integers. So a little bit different in that sense. So enumeration just have names. And even there, of course, it's not the heterogeneous data type, but tuples allow that for you. Allowing dissimilar types as members enhances the power of tuples. That's like one of the power. Though member of tuples can be such that they have nothing to do with each other, generally any collection is formed to serve an important software purpose. So because of this guiding principle makes member of a tuple related in some ways to make them useful in software that employs them. Although they could be like totally unrelated items of data, but of course relating them is very useful. Okay, then it serves a useful purpose. Okay, we're going to show you a schematic example of tuples. Uh, what is below is not a C++ source code. We are only showing example of tuple schematically. Let's say we store student data in a tuple. It will look something like this, that I have a variable here which is Boolean type, false. I have floating point variable 3.4. I have an integer variable 23. And I have a string variable John Doe. So what could that mean? First could be like a status of the student. If a student is undergraduate, then we set that to false. If a student is graduate, then we set it to true. Okay. 3.4 is the GPA. 23 is the age on the last birthday, and of course this is the name. Okay. So we are repeating the same thing here. First data member or zero sequence member. This is the zero sequence member. False indicate that it is false that John Doe is a graduate student, which means the John Doe is undergraduate. Second data member or sequence 1, which is 3.4, stores student's GPA. Third data member or sequence 2, which is 23, stores student's age on the last birthday. And of course, fourth data member or sequence 3. So sequence 0, 1, 2, 3 stores John Doe, which is student's name. So this is just a schematic example. It's not a source code. All right. If I want to use C++ tuple in a program, it requires the following include. Number include tuple. Okay. This allows us access to all the tuple functions, basically. Two key functions facilitating use of tuples are, one is called make tuple. This will actually take arguments of dissimilar type. These could be just hard-coded values, or this could be variable names that has been declared before call to make tuple. So make tuple is one of the functions that's very useful. And second is the get function, square bracket n and the tuple name. So n gives you what get function would be, either setting or getting the sequence number. If it's 0, it may get or set the 0th or the first member of the tuple. If it's 1, then second member of the tuple, and so on. And get can do getting and setting both. We'll show example of both of them. So once again, make tuple, this should be lowercase, by the way. Automatic capitalization made it uppercase. So lowercase m, make tuple builds a tuple from arguments passed to it and returns the built tuple. Okay. And get function, again, this should be lowercase. It got capitalized because of auto capitalization. Allows the access to tuple members using the sequence n and the name of the tuple. And a little bit later you see that you can also use get function to actually change the value of the members of the tuple. Okay, now I'm going to, let's see, demo, declare here and demo in the Xcode at the same time. So this is one of the tuple declaration. Let's say I want to store student data. Then this is one of the syntax I could use. So keyword tuple, sorry, it's not a keyword, it's part of the user-defined data type in the tuple header file. So first I define the data type that I want in the sequence inside the tuple. So first data type should be bool type, second double type, third integer type, fourth string type. And this is grouped inside an angular bracket. We mentioned that before, anytime you have either curly brace or angular bracket or parentheses or square bracket for that matter, we are grouping something inside them. So here we are grouping the data type that tuple members will have in that order. So 0th member will have data type of bull, first member sequence 1 will have data type of double, sequence 2 will have data type of int, sequence 3 will have data type of string, and then we enclose it. You can have as many as you like. Here I just chose 4. This is the tuple name or the variable name, and then curly brace. This is the value of the first member of the tuple, which is bull type. This is the value of the second tuple member, which is the double type. This is the value of the third tuple member, which is int type. And John Doe is the value of the fourth tuple member, which is the string type. Incidentally, in Visual Studio, if you're using Visual Studio 2012, this syntax of curly braces will not work. You'll have to use the parentheses. Okay, it's a problem because Visual Studio 2012 is not fully C++11 compliant. There are a lot of little holes here and there, and that's a bit of a problem, but not much we can do about that right now. But in Xcode and GCC, it will work. So tuples, once again, tuple start declaration starts with word tuple. That is followed by the left angular bracket to group the tuple data types. Data type members of tuple are comma separated, comma, 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 and so on. And tuple data type declaration end with the right angular bracket, which is right here. So word tuple, data type, comma, data type, comma, data type, comma, data type, and the angular bracket, right angular bracket ends the declaration. Okay. So thus below syntax declares tuple data type preceding the tuple name. Okay. Before the tuple name, we need to have that if we use this technology. It's shown here. Okay, so in this case, the variable name is student data. And the value inside the tuple will be false for the first member, which is 0 sequence, 3.1 for the second member, which is sequence 1, sequence 2, and sequence 3. Okay. Tuple name is declared after tuple data type. This is tuple data type here, and the name is declared after that. So student data is the tuple name. And after that, enclosed in curly brace, is the tuple data members or its argument list. 0th argument, first argument, second argument, third argument in sequence. So this variable will store false, 3.1, 24, and John Doe. There's another technique to store, should say another technique to store or make the tuple. Okay, this is just a, okay. So basically what I'm saying is, again, repeating the same thing, that this is the data, false, 3.1, 24, and John Doe. Okay. These are the data values for the tuple student data. Okay. This is very important. Tuple data types and tuple data member values must match in types and order. So for example, if I have bull here, then this value should be Boolean type. If I have double here, then this value that matches in the same order should be double type. If this is int type, this should be int type. If this is string type, this is string type. If this order is not kept, I think C++ can try to do automatic conversion, but if that's not possible, then you'll end up in problems. compile error or runtime error. I have not actually checked exactly what happens because we were just trying to do the best we can to make it work for right now. But just remember that types and the values must match in the order. Okay. Okay, the syntax we have shown so far will work in Xcode and GCC, but not in Visual Studio, which is kind of a renegade right now as far as the compliance is concerned. It's not fully compliant. This syntax I'm showing below is going to work in Visual Studio 2012. So instead of curly braces, you have to have the round braces. Curly braces would have flagged and compile error with the mismatched data type. Round braces, I don't think it will actually. So for Visual Studio, you have to use the round braces rather than the curly braces. Okay. So curly braces are replaced by round braces in Visual Studio 2012. A demo will be done in Xcode. So we'll have curly braces in the demo. Okay, there's another way to create tuple using the make tuple function, as we mentioned earlier. And this avoids the problem of specifying data type, angular bracket, and specifying and mapping the data type then with the values. It works very nicely. So again, m should be lowercase, which is included in tuple header file. Can be used to create a tuple, and this is the example of the syntax here. Let's say I have all these variables first. Bool is graduate equal to false. Auto GPA equal to 3.5. I could have used auto here also, but I didn't. Then auto age equal to 30. Auto name equal to string Lisa Adams. By the way, auto, if you saw my first video on C++ 11 tutorial 1, describe that what auto does, it will set the data type of GPA to 3.5, which is double type. And here it will set data type to age, of age to int type, and so on. Okay. So we have these four variables: is graduate, GPA, age, and name. Their data types are either explicitly shown or keyword auto takes care of them. Then this works very beautifully. You don't have to have that word tuple and angular bracket and the data types. The keyword auto takes care of that. And then on left hand side I have keyword auto student2 equals make tuple function, and then I pass these variables to it. Is graduate, GPA, age, and name. Is graduate, GPA, age, and name. So then false is stored here, 3.5 is stored here, 30 is stored there, and name Lisa Adams is stored there. Okay. If you don't want to use the variable, you can actually hard code the values here in the make tuple function, and that'll be fine also actually. Okay. So make tuple function is very useful. So make tuple function, again lowercase m, takes the parameters passed to it, returns a tuple which is stored in the left hand side variable. In this case, the variable is the student2. All right. Now, once we make the tuple, that's not enough. We need to extract data from the tuple. Now we show the technique for doing that. Data can be extracted from tuple randomly using the index or sequence number of the tuple element. And certainly to do this, programmer must know the identity of data at each index, unless you are just printing it. If you're going to store it into another variable, although auto can be done for that. Insertion operator or cout bracket is not overloaded to print a tuple. To print a tuple, I have to use extract each element and then print that. So get function does that for us. Get function is part of the header file, and it can extract each individual tuple member actually. So we discussed the get tuple function now. Get function, along with an index or sequence number and tuple name, is used to extract the individual tuple components. And next slide shows you the syntax and code. And this is a big slide, so we're gonna go through that. And I think line numbers have moved a bit, but that's okay. So I'm declaring excuse me, 4 variables. Bool is graduate equal to false, auto GPA equal to 3.5, auto age equal to 30, and the name equal to string Lisa Adams. Then I make the tuple out of it. I say auto student 2 equal to make tuple, and I'm passing these 4 variables: is graduate, which is false, GPA, that's 3.5, age, that is 30, and name, that is Lisa Adams. And then I can use the get function in this manner. Okay. So I'm saying get angular bracket 3 inside the parentheses student 2 and ENDL. Okay. So I think it'll be better if I showed this or similar code in the Xcode, because you'll see that right away. So let's actually go to Xcode, and here I might not have the same. Actually, I do have the same. So I'm declaring is graduate false, GPA 3.5, age 30, name Lisa Adams. Then I'm making the tuple, calling the make tuple function. This is the second part, by the way. At the top I've done the other syntax. Okay. Over here I've done the other syntax that I showed earlier. But let's work with this for now. And what I'll do to clarify the output, I'm going to just comment out this one. Okay. I think there is a way to comment out this one. Okay, I'll just do it by hand. There was a way to do it automatically. Okay, so is graduate is false, GPA is 3.5, age is 30, and name is Lisa Adams. By the way, if you have a small movie window, this code may not seem clear. So maximize your video window right now, and then you'll see a little bit clear. Just click on the button in the video frame, click on the maximize button. Alright, so here we're showing the use of the get function, and this may be a little small, so I can actually enlarge the code here. So you can see after we made the tuple, the line 98 is extracting the name. So we say get 3 because last member was the name. So get angular bracket 3, and then inside the parentheses I have the student name. So this should really print out student's name. Okay. Age on the last birthday is the second member in the sequence, and you can see that right here, 0, 1, and 2. So age was the second member. So when we print the student's age on the last birthday, so we use the second member. So get angular bracket closed, student 2. And then the very first one was GPA, not very first one in placement, but in the sequence. So this is sequence 1, and I'm printing that here. Okay. So how do I use the first member, which is false in this case? I just do a simple if and else. Okay. So I say if get 0 student 2 is true, then I say get 3 student 2 is a graduate student, and get 3 student 2 will get the name, which is Lisa Adams. Okay. Otherwise, again we are printing the name is an undergraduate student. Okay. So we're going to run this code here in Xcode, and let's focus on the result just after the first asterisk line. Okay, so after the first asterisk line. So it says data for second student. First student was a little different. Student name is Lisa Adams, and that was the one we set up here, which we got through using get 3. And age on last birthday 30 here, passed to the tuple here, extracted here. Okay, using get 2 because it was second in the sequence, and then GPA is 3.5, which is printed here using get 1 student 2, and the reason for that was that 0 and 1, so sequence 1 was GPA. Okay. And then it says Lisa Adams is an undergraduate student, and notice that is graduate was set to false. So here I'm getting get 0 student 2, which is false, so this will not execute. That means else branch will execute, and then else branch prints the student name, which I'm getting using the get function, get 3 student 2, and then it prints that it's an undergraduate student. Okay. So this is the use of get function, showing the get function in action in different ways. All right. Okay. So this slide pretty much describes the same thing, that you can use get function. For example, here we are getting the name because it's the last member, sequence 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. And then we can use like 2 gets us the age, and 1 gets us the GPA. And 0 is used here, which will be, in this case, will be false, and will execute either this one or that one. We just showed that in the Xcode. Well, the main item to focus here is that using get function, the tuple element can be extracted in any order. Okay. Here I got the last element first, then the one before that, and I got the first one at the end. So it's a random access. Tuple has random access. As long as you specify the sequence number of the tuple element, you can get them in any order you like. Okay. So for example, line 5, which is this one, gets and returns the 4th member of tuple, which is the name Lisa Adams. Okay. So we have shown use of get function and the fact that you can extract tuple members using get in any order you like. Okay. And one more time, if you use this syntax for getting a member of tuple, then the number inside the angular bracket specifies the index of the tuple element. So 3 in the above code means access to the fourth element, and variable inside the parentheses is really the tuple name. Okay, must be populated obviously, otherwise it's not going to work. Okay, you could change value of tuple members, and interestingly enough, get function used also for changing the value of mutating the tuple members. And we show the code example first here and then in Xcode. Consider this tuple below. That student 3 has 4 things. True means Jim Jones is a graduate student, GPA of 3.2, and age is 25, and this is the name. Imagine that we find out that first 3 data are not for Jim Jones, rather they are for Mary Mays. So although data is correct, the name is wrong, and we want to change the name here. That can happen. So then change the name of the fourth member or sequence 0, 1, 2, 3. It is done using the following sequence. Get angular bracket sequence number 0, 1, 2, 3, tuple name, which was student 3, equals Mary Mays. So when get function is on the left hand side of the assignment operator, then you can change the tuple member at that location by putting a correct value or the desired value on the right hand side. If it's not on the left hand side, then it will give you the access to that member. So this is the right access to the tuple members. Okay. And some of you may be surprised to see function call on the right side of assignment operator. But remember that in pass by reference mechanism, if a function is also returning a value by reference, then that's available. The ebook has some examples of that, actually. Okay, so I want to show this in Xcode also, rather than showing all the Xcode at the end. I think we can just kind of interact with the Xcode as we go along. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to take, actually probably I won't be able to do it. Here I created tuple for, let's see, yeah, I created another, okay, tuple here. That's a Jim Jones right here, okay. But we said this name is not correct, name should be Mary Mays. So this line, code of line that I showed in the PowerPoint also, right here, changes the name to Mary Mays, and I can just print the name after that. Okay, so let's just focus on this line here, and output of this line is really already here. We ran the program before. After changing the name in student 3, which was actually Jim Jones, the new name is Mary Mays because the get function here changes the name to Mary Mays. Okay, so that's how get function can be used to change the members of the tuple. The other thing is, let's say although get function can provide to use access to individual member. Okay, this is grammatically wrong. Get function can provide access to use is not necessary. Access to individual tuple members. But using a function called tie, we can unpack all tuple members into individual variables at once. You don't have to do it in one step at a time. You can just do it at once using the function called tie, T-I-E. And the source code is shown first in next slide, and then we'll demo that in the Xcode. Let's say I have student 3, which is true, 3.2, 25, and Mary Mays. Okay, and we in the Xcode we had done that by changing the name from Jim Jones to Mary Mays. But think of this is done this way. Then I have 4 variables: bool Mary status. So true means she is graduate student, false means she is undergraduate. Double Mary GPA. And notice these are not populated, so I can't use the auto unless I provide a value on the right hand side. Then int Mary age and string student name. Then if I call this function, that function tie, Mary status, which is Boolean type, is the first variable, Mary GPA, which is the second variable, Mary age, which is int type, is the third variable, and student name, which is string type, is the fourth variable, equals student 3. So meaning of that is the tie function is called, then from this tuple all the members of this tuple are unpacked into Mary status, Mary GPA, Mary age, and student name. Okay. So let's see example of that in the Xcode. Let's do that. Okay, and that example is shown here. The tie function call is right here. So over here I have student 3, and then I change the name to Mary Mays using the get function, and then I'm unpacking the data for Mary Mays into 4 variables: Mary status, Mary GPA, Mary age, and student name. Could have used Mary name, but that kind of seemed a little silly. And here's the call to the tie function, which is exact same thing as I'm doing here actually. Okay. Show you one more time. That's the function call that is here. Okay. So how do we know this worked? Well, we can print all the members of the tuple because they were unpacked into these 4 variables. So we just print the value of those 4 variables. And by running our code, that has been done. So this line here, student name, is giving me this output here, Mary Mays. This line here is giving me this output, that is student status true if graduate student, else false, comes out to be true. And this line here is giving me this output, that is student age is 25, and this line here is giving me this output, that GPA is 3.2. Okay. So here we are unpacking all the elements of tuple at once using this tie function here, whose example in the PowerPoint is right here. Okay. All right. There's a little bit more to it, of course. We can ignore selected tuple members during unpacking. If we don't want to unpack all the members, ignore function can be used to ignore them. So it is possible to ignore and not unpack selected tuple members into variables. This is done by using the ignore function in placed where unpacking variables should be. Just put the word ignore there actually. And next slide shows the code example, and then we will of course show that in Xcode as well. So let's say I have student 4, use the make tuple. true 3.935 Esther Johnson. Okay. Syntactically, Esther Johnson should be on one line, so forgive me for that. So 0th member, sequence 1, sequence 2, sequence 3. And then now I have 4 unpopulated variables. First is double type Esther GPA. You can put them in any order, doesn't really matter. Second is Esther age in type, string student name 2. And then I don't want to unpack the first one true, so I didn't even define a variable for that. So I call the type function, put the word ignore, which is ignore is actually function. So the function call is being made when I put the word ignore here. But then I unpack 3.9 into Esther GPA. 35 I unpack into Esther age. So just watch my trajectory of my mouse. And string student name 2 unpacks the Esther Johnson, the name. Okay. So let's see how this is done using the ignore in the Xcode. So that's done here using the ignore function. And this is the same code I showed you in the PowerPoint. This one, make tuple, right here. This code here. And then I'm defining those 3 variables because I don't intend to extract the first one, GPA, Esther GPA, Esther age, name 2. Then I'm making this call, the tie ignore, student 4, which was this call here. And now I'm printing everything that is student name 2 because the name was unpacked into student name 2. So Esther Johnson, this was unpacked into student name 2. So I'm printing that right here. Age 35 was unpacked into Esther age, which is the int type variable. Sorry, here. And then 3.9 was unpacked into Esther GPA here, and that's being printed here. And Xcode, let's look at the last 3 line of the Xcode and prints the name Esther Johnson, age 35, and GPA 3.9. All right. So you can ignore certain member by just calling the ignore function. All right. Okay, so now this part of the slide I have already discussed in the Xcode. So, but the very first one I didn't. So I'm going to do that right now. I make a tuple where I'm hard coding some data, and then I'm getting them and printing them in certain order. And so this one was the very first one. So if you want to see code in a lot more detail, you can actually, okay, I'll pause here for a couple of seconds so you can see this code in big fonts. And then I'm going to go to Xcode and uncomment this and demo that for you. Okay, hopefully you had time to see it now. And now let's go back to the Xcode. And this was the very first part that I commented out, where tuple is built using the tuple name, user defined data type, and passing the values actually. So, and I can try to show it in the bold. So this is how the tuple is also defined if you don't use the make tuple. The word tuple, data type, angular bracket, data type of the first, 0 sequenced member, comma, sequence 1, comma, sequence 2 data type, comma, sequence 3 data type. Name of the tuple is student data, and curly brace, now the value. Value of the 0th member, one member sequence 1, 3.1, value of the member sequence 2, and the sequence 3, and the curly brace is closed. In Visual Studio, you will need the round braces, parentheses, and now I'm just printing them. Printing that you saw already in the PowerPoint here, and this is the print code, cout, get 3 student data, and so on. The student age on last birthday, get 2, angular bracket 2, and the tuple name, and so on. Okay. So now I'm uncommented that, so I'll run this one more time for you, and build successful. So it's gonna run now. So really, there's no secret that since I had put the data were false 3.1 24 John Doe. This is the name, so I'm printing the name here first, student name equal to John Doe, using the code here, the student name equal to get 3 student data, and so on. Okay, and then I'm printing the age on the last birthday. Code for that is this here, because sequence 3, no sorry, sequence 2, let's see, name was, okay, so sequence 2, yeah, this is the age, and then I'm printing the GPA. Okay, so this will be printed by this piece of source code, including up to here. Okay, so in summary, we have shown you how to make tuple 2 different ways. One technique is right here, that you have to define the keyword tuple, data type, comma separated, name of the tuple, and then curly brace, and you hard code the value. But there's an easier way to do it. If you use the make tuple function, then in the front you can just put the keyword auto, and the data type will be automatically determined by the keyword auto. You can pass the variables which are populated, or you can hard code the values like we did earlier right here. Either way. And then access is provided by the get function. Get function, angular bracket, and then tuple member sequence and the tuple name. And then we showed the use of ignore function and the tie function to unpack all tuple members, and also if we want to ignore some of them. Copy of the PowerPoint and this source code is available from me. Those who know me, you can write to me. Otherwise, you can leave a comment on the video with your email. And I'm trying to see if there's a way to, well, actually, source code is in the video, but I'm trying to see if there's a way for me to actually just post that universally for anybody. Right now, I don't have a website, so it's not feasible. But someday I will, and then you can get the source code and the PowerPoint copies from there. So this is it. We've done, I'm not going to show this whole bunch of things because I've already shown them in the Xcode. Alright, and this is the end of this video. We have shown you how to use C++ tuples, at least in the basic way. We're going to do another video where tuple can be returned as a return value from a function. I think that will be more useful, but at least we learned something basic about the tuples. Thanks for watching. Any comments will be highly appreciated, although I don't get a chance to see them very often. But when I do see them. And any comments to improve the videos will also be highly appreciated. As I said, I'm doing in my extra time. The job doesn't pay for making the videos, but it's a useful activity, so I'm doing it. So thank you so much. Bye.